We are back at it again with another episode of TC Talks, and today we have on somebody that is just an internet friend currently. I'm looking forward to kind of diving into some new stuff and into some deeper conversations. Um, this is Sam Jones of Rise and Thrive Coaching. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am just trying not to be the boring guy out here. You know what I mean? But I'd kind of like to start off with you're you're predominantly online or completely online right now?
I am completely online now. Yes.
Completely online as a health and wellness coach.
Yes.
Okay. How did you get to completely online?
Oh goodness, the journey. For me, online really started in the pandemic. I was an in-person personal trainer. I'm originally from Canada, so I was working at a gym, like one of the big box chain kind of corporate gyms there. And I was there for 4.5 years, I think, 4 years maybe at the time.
Mhm.
And my all of my time went to being in the gym. I basically lived in the gym. So, you have these ideas of, oh, maybe I'll start a little bit online and dabbling in that. But, it just never really happened until I was thrust into that with the pandemic. Where I lived, the gyms were closed like for almost a year straight. So for us, it was you either had the time off and you weren't working and you were just kind of living on the unemployment benefits, or you were, kind of carving a new path and starting something new. So I just really used it as an opportunity to have all this, I had all this extra time. So I was like, I might as well put it towards something productive. And I started going online with doing like little challenges, more so of like group programs. And that really just kind of blossomed into like a full-time coaching business.
Right on. And when you were in the gym, like prior to when you say that gyms closed down, did they close down in like March, April, like they did here in
Yes.
southeast part of the United States?
Yeah, I think it was, it's crazy. I remember this. I think it was March 15th because it was a week after my birthday.
So
And I
early.
was, yeah. And I was like, okay, so we're closed for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And,
Mm.
here we were like 6 months later and it still hadn't been open. So everybody was just like, had enough. Right. So
And how long did the gym stay closed though up there?
they were closed for about 6 months straight. I believe we opened for a really short period and then they were closed again. So I would say it was like almost a year that they were closed for 90% of the year.
Damn, because it really depended on where you were at in the United States. Like Canada,
Yeah.
or excuse me, not Canada, California was closed from March about the same time that y'all shut down, all the way till probably September, October. Georgia, right? Atlanta,
Yeah. Yeah.
suburbs in Georgia. That literally, I think we closed like April, May for like 2 weeks,
Oh
and then
my
we opened right
gosh.
back up
Okay,
because
yeah,
there
no.
was such a revolt, right, at the Capitol,
Hmm.
and so many people coming in droves from all around the state to protest at the Capitol for that to happen, and so they opened us right back up. We
Yeah,
were
well, I
we were the
mean,
last state. I think we were the last state outside of Florida to shut down and the first to open.
that's crazy. Well, I mean, lucky you. We were right in line with California pretty much. And I think at the time, right, it was very uncharted waters. Like nobody
Mhm.
really knew what they were dealing with. So they kind of, everybody kind of went along with it. But in hindsight now, it's just crazy to me how ridiculous it all was.
Absolutely. And I don't want to make this this whole podcast about the vid, but I am
Ah,
curious,
yeah.
you're not currently in Canada, and you don't have to
No.
drop the city that you're in, right? For all the weirdos on the internet. But
Yeah,
how did you
fair.
go from being in quarantine or on the front end of the pandemic there to now being in Mexico and still running same business? Did you incorporate
Yes.
differently? Same?
No, so because I live here with my boyfriend. We
Mhm.
we moved here together with our cat, and
You took a cat to
we
Mexico?
we did.
Oh wow. Is
Yep,
that
she came
easy to
along for
do?
the ride. Honestly, it wasn't too bad, but she loves it. She likes to watch all the birds lay in the sun, so she's having the time of her life. But yeah, it was just something where I think we had just had enough. Like it was like enough is enough. We
Mhm.
lived in this, like average size 1 bedroom condo, and we both were working in the gym. So we had both been laid off due to, the pandemic. So we were both just like on top of each other essentially like all day long, right? Like with not much to do aside from me kind of doing some stuff online, him kind of doing some stuff online. And we had just kind of had enough of that, like not being able to go anywhere, do
Mhm.
anything, see anyone. And we were like, there's nothing holding us here. There's like no restrictions in Mexico. Like, we don't want to be in this position where we
Zero.
feel like we don't want to be in this position where we feel like we're like forced to do things that we don't want to do or we don't really agree with. And then also feel like we're like losing our rights and our freedoms. So at this point of time too, it was leading into the winter months in 2021. So we were like, let's go to Mexico. And at the time, I don't think we really knew it was like going to be a long-term thing. I think it was more of like, let's go 3, 6 months, feel it out. If we hate it, we can go back, we can go somewhere else. But we've been here since, basically with a couple trips back and forth. So we are now temporary residents of Mexico. So we're still like our permanent citizenship and everything is in Canada, and my business and everything is registered in
Mhm.
Canada, but we are able to stay in Mexico for 4 years. So just took some of the pressure off for us to kind of like, navigate where the world is going and what we want to
And you said you moved down there
do.
in the winter of 21, not 20?
21. Yeah. So we had already been in Canada like for a full year. Yeah, a full year of the nonsense. And then we were kind of like by the end of that summer, the summer
Mhm.
was like in Canada because the warmer months there, like with the
Mhm.
seasonality there, it seemed that like it slowed down a little bit in terms of the numbers rising. So they would tease a little bit of like, here, you guys can like actually go out and do some things. And then the winter would come and be like, psych, everybody's locked down again. So by that point, we were just like, okay, no, it's enough. Enough's enough. We're out of here. And that was like September, October-ish of 2021.
Damn. Okay. So you're doing some stuff online. He's doing some stuff online. Do y'all work in the same business now?
No, we have like our own separate things.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a little bit of like a jack of all trades. So he likes to kind of have like, not all of his eggs in one basket per se. So
Fair
he
enough.
does a little bit of finance related stuff, some fitness related
Okay.
stuff, some YouTube related stuff. So yeah.
Got it. Is he still coaching now though?
Yes.
Okay. So still doing some, just not full time like you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Kind of splitting time. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I guess I'm curious, did you have like when you were in gym, right? I know that you say right there on your Instagram that you work with ambitious women. I help ambitious women eat more, get strong, and build fierce confidence so they can thrive from the inside out. Very catchy. I love it. I don't know how many
Thanks.
revisions that took, but I am curious. Was that your demographic when you were in gym too?
In the gym, it was challenging because, for any of you who ever go into a big box chain gym, like, Good Life Fitness, Gold's Gym, whatever it might be, right? Planet Fitness, it's just general population, right?
Hmm.
So I would say that I definitely had a niche of working with women. I think I
Hmm.
only ever had two. One was my dad, male clients in my entire life.
Hmm.
So I definitely niched in women, but I would say that it was not as specific as that. It was more so like I had clients as young as like 16, all the way clients up to like 65. And it was more so of just making sure that like their movement was good. Like in the gym, you only have so much control. Like you're not really a lifestyle coach in the gym, you're a personal trainer, right? And there is a very big difference. So I found that my impact working at a gym was very limited because you could only do so much with that hour that you had with the person at the time, right? So I was very like movement focused, but one of the benefits of where I worked was that we actually had incentives to take more education because they would give you a percentage of what you spent back to continue your education. So I did use that to take a bunch of courses and stuff at the time. So that's what actually got me more interested in helping people from a more like a lifestyle, well-rounded, holistic point of view, was like taking courses like precision nutrition, and courses around like stress and like metabolism and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's kind of what led me when the pandemic hit. I was like, sick, now I can do more than just like personal training.
Yeah. No, that's definitely fair. I think it's a shame for you let's call them big boxes or health clubs, right? The
Yeah.
World Gym, the Gold's Gym, the Lifetime,
Yes.
not the 24-hour like come anytime, it's $10 and we have pizza on Saturdays, but like the health clubs that have the saunas, the pools, the lap pools, etc. I think
Yeah.
it's a big shame that they don't lean more into the accountability. They don't lean more into the lifestyle coaching because
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know. I truly think in the beginning, fitness is 10%, nutrition is 90% for composition changes. I mean, I don't know where you sit on
100%.
that. Would you say about the
Yeah,
same or?
I totally agree. I mean, I think that oftentimes the focus is so heavily on even like not even the fitness side of it, but the workouts, right?
Mhm.
Like people so much underestimate like your daily movement and just
Mhm.
your general like lifestyle on a day-to-day basis outside of that like that 1 hour, 30-minute workout you do, like, when you break it down to, if we're going to get into all of like the calories burned and all that, like that's such a small percentage of your entire metabolic rate, right? So I think that, like, I totally agree. And it blows my mind that they also haven't like brought in more nutrition as well. Like, even if you do want to keep it separated, like they don't even have like nutritionists or anything. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, they don't have registered dietitians either, which is
No.
fascinating to me, right? And for people that don't know, an RDLDN is someone with a master's or a PhD in nutritional sciences that then does like either a postdoc or an internship, and then has credentials that are, it's like a state licensure, or excuse me, a national licensure that then has like state requirements and what have you. Nutritionist is someone that usually has gone through something like, you can do it through ISSA or NASM or what have you,
Yeah.
but I would say that precision nutrition is probably the place that I would go if someone was
Yeah, it
brand
was
new
really
there.
good.
PN1
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. And, I think that the gyms also don't do a very good job at incentivizing their trainers or coaches or whatever you want to call them, um, to be able to actually support the client more than just through the workouts, right? Because you would think if they wanted to incentivize their trainers to do that, you
Mhm.
would have a payment structure or like a program structure where you're actually doing like midweek check-ins with the clients, and you're actually paying your trainers to take that extra step and to bring that accountability, right? Outside of just like, all right, book in your session, train them, and they go home, and then they get McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's actually how TruCapacity came about a long time ago. Um, and by a long time I just mean a handful of years, but it was that same kind of thing. There's no pocket, right? For someone that's like, hey, I have these other skills, I have these other certifications, I have this other experience, and I want to serve a client higher, but in a commercial gym where they take 30 to 65% of what I make,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm not allowed to do anything with these clients outside of what they allow me to do, you can't really show up for people. It's like your
No.
30-minute sessions or your hour sessions, and that's it.
Yeah, and I always found almost like towards the end, it would almost get like a feeling of resentment because you would want to help the client more. And I would go out of my way to spend time like texting them, like, hey, how's your week going? Or like, you have a session with them and they tell you about something going on in their life or something they're struggling with. And you almost feel like, excuse my language, asshole, like not following up on that, right? Or checking in on them. And, I would do that, but then I would feel like I wasn't getting fairly compensated for the
Mm.
dedication and the care and the level of attention I was giving to my clients, right? So,
Yeah, it kind of creates a rift between not you and the client, but you and the gym. And you're like, hold on, like
exactly.
you're getting $2,200 of value from me, the gym, not the client. $2,200
Mhm.
of value, and I'm getting paid $45 a session and nothing outside. And no
Yeah.
incentive for retention, no incentive for any of the supplements you sell, no incentive for any of the juice bar or anything else that they opt into.
Yeah, literally.
Not a single thing.
Crazy.
So
Craziness.
when you were at the gym though, you worked with people from 16 all the way up, or was that just the demo that was there?
I did everything from like group coaching sessions, like boot camps and stuff, to one-on-one. And I did have like some younger clients that, obviously they need parental consent, but I did have some younger clients between like 16 and 18 at the time, in some boot camps.
Mm-hmm.
I had I think my youngest one-to-one client was around 17 at the time. And my oldest client was 65, I want to say. So it
Yeah.
was pretty big range. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit wider than our range. I think our youngest at TC across everyone is like 22, but our
Okay.
oldest
Yeah.
is like 76.
Oh my God. I love it.
Yeah, right. Like so a big range, like 50 years. So it's
Yeah.
definitely interesting there. I'm curious. So when you went, so you're in person, you get locked down. What happens from March 15th until September, October of 21? Like, how did you get into knowing what the heck you needed to do online, knowing what your offer was, knowing what target demo to go after? Like, how did you figure all that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's challenging because the biggest kind of slap in the face for me was realizing that, just because you're a fitness professional in the gym, that doesn't necessarily translate online because now you're a business owner as well, right? Like being a business owner and being a fitness professional are two very different things. So now you no longer just have to worry about, actually the client delivery and what you're doing to support your clients. You have to actually run a functional business, right? And these are things like accounting and marketing and advertising
Mm-hmm.
and, back end systems and all of this kind of stuff that I had like zero experience with. with, really. Everybody has their social media account and they post their workouts and whatever, but I had no experience like marketing a business, right? And
Mhm.
actually doing like sales were different in the gym because you would only really have a pool of people that were in the gym. You would do your prospecting on the floor. You would make connections in the gym, right? If somebody signed up for a membership, they were a new lead. On Instagram and online, that's not really the case, right? You only have available like, who's in your community that follows you, or you're doing cold outreach essentially. So that was like very interesting. For me, I was really lucky that I had built a very solid community in the gym. So when I translated online, a lot of those people came to me for support, looking for guidance and looking for some sort of, accountability or support through the pandemic and with things being
Mhm.
closed. So I would say like those kind of challenges that I did in the beginning and bringing people on initially, like I was relatively successful with, because people were just kind of like, I love Sam from the gym, so I'm just going to do whatever she's doing outside of the gym, right?
Yeah.
But as time grew, right, like you kind of eliminate that lead pool. Like you go through everybody, right? And you've talked to everybody and you've worked with everybody. So over time, I think that was kind of my challenge. I really just, because I honestly had, besides my own home workouts, like I had nothing else to do at the time. So I just literally all day, like poured my heart and soul into like learning things, watching YouTube videos,
Mhm.
listening to every podcast resource and whatever I could on the planet. But eventually at some point, right, like you can only get so much from free sources. So that's kind of when I started going down my, business investment journey of
Mhm.
working with some mentorships and mentors and coaches and stuff like that, and in different capacities, some definitely more beneficial than others, but that's kind of
I can say the
how it
same.
brought me from, yeah, what brought me from point A to point B. And I'm just somebody who's naturally curious, especially in the things that I'm interested in. So I kind of like go down rabbit holes and will really look into things. I find that, my biggest challenge has been um, doing that with, I guess, my weaknesses, right? Like wanting to improve on the things that I'm not good at and I don't like doing. I kind of just like stay away from it, as opposed to kind of embracing the growth. So I would say that's kind of where, it's been a little bit of a struggle, but
Yeah. Where do you think you're not strong? Where do you think those weaknesses are?
oh my God, accounting, financial literacy, all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
not my jam. Numbers, no, don't like them. So it's definitely the biggest part. I would say I'm also like a very messy action taker.
Mhm.
So, the whole like structure and organization and stuff, like I'll be good with it. And then I'll just kind of like veer off for a while, have to come back and clean everything up.
Yeah. Oh, well, dang. You and I are like tax accounting, not here for it, right? Can I run formulas and spreadsheets all day? For sure, when it has to do with marketing and how much money I'm taking in. But when you want to talk about like taxes, nope,
Yeah,
nope, nope, nope.
no,
So
especially this time of year, I'm like,
yeah, I had to file I had to file about a month ago, and because I was not about to wait, because the deadline is the 17th, right?
okay,
For US,
for you
it's
guys.
literally on Tuesday,
Oh my
or
God.
14th. Yeah, so that's Monday. But there's a holiday, so it gets pushed back a day. Anyways, it's Monday or Tuesday is when the deadline is to file an extension or to go ahead and put in. Um, I want to back up though. Your challenges. Walk me through what this looked like. I mean, this it sounds like when you did challenges during COVID, you didn't necessarily from the jump know what you were doing. You're just like, hey, I have these people that used to train with me in the gym. I have some of these Instagram followers. I have so much time on my hand. I need to figure this out. Like, walk me through how that went, because I feel like the people that really jumped in heavy from the jump there when everything closed down are the people that kind of grabbed all the fruit, so to speak.
Yeah,
You know?
I hear you. It's funny that you say that, because my boyfriend and I have had this conversation like 100 times, because like you said, I kind of jumped on it right away and he necessarily didn't, because he was more on the finance side of the stuff at the time. So I think that's something that often looking back, he's like, yeah, well, you started earlier. But at the time we had this inkling that the gyms were going to close. We had heard kind of word of it. And my boyfriend actually was like, you need to put something together now. Like, even if it's like so random and messy, like you need to put something together right now. So I spent like a whole weekend sitting down, putting together this PDF of this like
Mm-hmm.
4 week stay accountable quarantine challenge, the workouts, the whole 9 yards. And then basically it just delivered workouts for people to follow from home that were very minimal equipment friendly, because most people didn't bulk up with equipment to prepare for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
nutrition guidelines, and then we did weekly like group coaching calls and a weekly just like group check-in was basically what it was. Like looking back now, I look at it and I'm like, oh, I sold this, but it was just literally just kind of jumping in and taking 48 hours and slamming something together and being like, if I'm helping people, that's what matters, right?
Yeah, and those workouts, did you pre-record them? Like you going through all of them, or was it like Excel, or was it just PDF like line items with the YouTube link to the movement, or how'd that go?
I actually recorded all of the videos and then uploaded them to YouTube and then linked them to the PDF with Canva.
Okay, so you didn't put on a mic and get on your on your
No.
jazzercise and start doing the
No.
exercises with
I'm
people.
definitely like not a group fitness girly. Like
Hmm.
follow along classes is not my jam. But I like to do like in-depth like demo videos.
Hmm.
So it took me a lot of time and like a lot of time. But then I had those videos to use forever, right? Like those are still some of the videos I use now for some of my trainerized exercises. So
Yeah, and those exercises, was that with cues and a voiceover and all that kind of stuff? It wasn't just visually, like it wasn't just
yeah,
visually from different angles. It was also walking through everything.
yeah,
Dang. Okay. Yeah, you jumped in there fast. In there
I did.
fast. And that was about, so it's March 15th, right? Stuff is closing down. Did you get that set up before everything closed, or like right as it was closing?
So like the Monday that everything was closed, that weekend before was when I started putting it
Oh
together.
my goodness.
So I promoted it basically as soon as they were like, yeah, everything's locked down. I was like, okay, come join this. And then the following week, I think I started it, I believe. It's a little bit
Dang.
hazy now, but yeah.
For sure. Well, it should be a testament, at least from my point of view, that you look back at that and you're cringeworthy, because that means that what you're selling now and what you're doing now and the protocols that you're putting people through are probably much more advanced and much more um, intentional, I guess you could say, for now this
Yeah.
online world that you've been in for a while.
Yeah. And I think something at the time that was challenging for me is that all of my client experience, right? Like working with clients was all in a gym. So it was always training people from an aspect of gym based workouts, right? So to now all of a sudden like flip the switch and be giving people like a lot of plyometric based exercises and circuit based stuff to actually be able to, have any form of progressive overload or challenge at home when you're using body weight or like household items, it's hard, right? When that's not really your niche and like your realm of expertise at the time. So I think that was my biggest challenge. Like I would say I'm probably more close knit now to what I was even doing in the gym than I was during the pandemic because I'm back in the gym and coaching clients
Mhm.
mostly that are in the gym. So
Yeah, most of the people that you work with have gym access wherever they are.
most of them, yeah. Or like
Okay.
sick home gyms that they developed through the
Mhm.
pandemic.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. It's actually really funny that you say that, because most people that have been gym rats have a very hard time programming similar modalities or similar movement patterns when you go to calisthenics, because it's like where you could just pick up a heavy ass dumbbell, right? And by the way, I know you were being very very polite earlier and saying, "Oops, excuse my language. Say whatever you want." The F word is dropped on this all the time.
All right.
So full license to say whatever you want, but it's interesting because an RDL with a heavy ass dumbbell is a very easy thing to do when you're in a commercial gym where there's tons of weights. But then how do
Mhm.
you transfer that to somebody that's like, hey coach, I don't even have anything over a water jug. You know what I mean? You're like,
100%. You're like, okay, so you're going to do 300 of those.
correct, David Goggins, you're gonna do 300 in a row on live. you know that's goodness, it's definitely difficult to do, especially now with when people still want that right today, and it's literally April of 2023, and there's a gym on almost every corner in America, yet our obesity is ridiculously
Ooh,
high.
yes.
Ridiculously high. But let's go back into your clientele. How did you come to wanting to work with women in the capacity that you do?
I think I just really noticed through my own life experiences and kind of what I went through in my own journey, areas that I felt like I could have really used support. And I think that that's kind of translated into, the type of people that I work with. I would say when I started my fitness journey, I mean, I've always been a very active person. Like as a child, I was like, in competitive sports and the whole 9 yards. I went to university and played sports there, and everything was all hunky dory until I became an adult. I graduated and moved out by myself. And that's kind of where things like took a downward turn for me. And I think that like having a very busy schedule, I was working two jobs. One of them was in like the nightlife entertainment industry, doing like bottle service and promotional events and all that kind of stuff. So just like being able to balance that with regular life and a full-time job, social pressures of feeling like you needed to drink or eat things or whatever to fit in, right? Constantly comparing yourself, especially with social media and stuff these days. It's so easy to constantly feel like you're not good enough or you're not doing enough, right? And you want to look like everybody else and their mother. So I feel like those are the areas that I just really try to zone in when I was, the more I was working with people, the more I realized that those are the people that I connected with the most, the people that were like, under eating because they thought that they needed to lose weight that way and were scared to eat more and, or they were too busy because they were so busy with their job or their life that, they actually like were not fueling their body correctly and they really struggled with confidence issues and couldn't balance like the social with their own personal goals. They didn't really carve out time for themselves. So those are the people that I found that like I felt the most connected with because I've been there, right? And I feel like it's very easy to feel a soft spot for those clients and be able to really connect with them because you have like the personal experience of going through that and overcoming that yourself.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few things there, like you know, the consistency, right? The social pressure to eat and drink things in certain
Yeah.
scenarios, and then the comparison and the confidence. And I'd like to hone in on these kind of one at a time. I guess I'm curious, you know, how do you, as someone who's very forthright on social media, that's very like front facing social media, as a coach, people looking at your media that are also that you're trying to sell, right? That if it could work and you could coach them, like you're all over social media. How do you, being this involved in Instagram and perhaps other platforms as well, I mean, how do you stop the comparison? How do you feel confident in you without looking around?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable for everybody to do it to some capacity, right? Like I'll myself even still have days where I'll like see somebody and like, damn, she has nice glutes. Like, why don't my glutes look like that? Right. But I think that, when you create this environment where you are able to show up for yourself and you like people often say confidence comes from like how you look when you look in the mirror. And I agree to that to some capacity, but I also believe that confidence comes from being able to trust yourself and actually follow through with what you say you're going to do. And that's something that's really changed in my life from when I started my fitness journey to now. For the most part, like if I say something, I'm going to do it and I'm committed to something for myself, I will 100% do it. And I feel like that allows me to feel more confident in my own ability to show up for myself. Right. So I feel like, the idea of that, like, oh, she's pretty or she looks a certain way. I don't look at that at face value anymore so much as like that's what confidence is. And it's more so like, how do I feel about what I'm doing for myself and how I feel? Right. So I feel like that allows me to kind of keep a level head about things. I think also just being exposed to things and knowing that like a lot of it is just fake, right? Like understanding and being able to accept that like social media is just a highlight reel. Like all of those people that you see that like you're looking at and you're being like, why can't I be them? Or I want to be more like them. Their life probably doesn't actually look like that behind closed doors 100% of the time. Right. And just being able to kind of, I think, conceptualize that and be able to actually subconsciously accept that. Like a lot of people are like, yeah, I know that. But then when it comes down to the subconscious level, like they don't actually believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds like you've maybe shifted your confidence and where it comes from to being the hard work that you put in as opposed to
Yes.
the visual, like the visual on some random photo that could be Photoshop with a pump, with angles, with oil or sweat on you in certain lighting.
Exactly.
Like your confidence comes less from that now in yourself and more from just outworking.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it comes from how you receive your self-validation as well, right? Like, do you receive self-validation because, like you said, you feel accomplished because of the work that you put in and what you're physically doing for yourself? What goals do you have? Are you accomplishing those goals? Are you celebrating those goals, right? Or those achievements, opposed to receiving validation from others? And, are you constantly feeling like, you only feel validated from Instagram likes, from Instagram DMs, getting attention from the opposite sex, if if you're single or whatever, or like whatever. And I think that like I used to be more like that prior to really getting into my self-development and my fitness journey. I was the girl that like wanted to have my hair done, my nails done, my eyelashes done, all of that all the time, so that I like fit this idea of what I thought people wanted me to look like to be accepted. And then when I took a step away from all of that, it's like I'm now more confident than I ever was doing all of those things.
Yeah. And I mean, does that switch turn off and change to a different type of confidence just because we're in a relationship or just because we outwork our self-doubt? Or was this a conscious decision that you made to change what you measured yourself based on?
I think for me, it was a change that happened over time. I was in a place in my life, like I mentioned before, where I was in a very different place than I am now. And I was just not happy. Like I just really genuinely wasn't happy. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I was like, is this who I want to be? And like the answer was no. So I think that that's kind of what stemmed my journey, we will say, or my path to starting to have some trial and error into like, how do I change that? Right. Because like you said, it's not something that's a switch that you flip overnight. Right. And there isn't really one answer. It's for a lot of people, it takes a lot of inner work and self-discovery to figure out the answers to those questions. But I think a lot of it started by having something that was a positive outlet for me to show up and do that was positive for me and setting me in the right direction. And for me, that was like working out and being in the gym.
Yeah. And did that switch? I mean, pre-pandemic, did that switch when you started coaching in a gym, or was that something that really didn't come to a head until you're out of the gym and now you're running your own business and you're having to show up for not only just the client stand in front of you, but literally your accountant, right? Give the government their money. You have to do your
Oh
schedule, you
God.
have to do sales, you have to do billing. Like, is that when that actually shifted over, like shifted faster, or was that something that you had prior to leaving the gym?
For me, like the very big realization that something needed to change was like years ago in 2017. That was when I made the decision to get a job in the gym to begin with. I was, like I said, I was doing like communication based work
Mhm.
at TD Bank, which is like a big bank in Canada. I was doing promotional modeling, hiring, and management, and I was also working as a bottle service girl. So like all three of those things, I was kind of looking at my life like, is this like, where do I see this going? Like what do I want from
Mhm.
this? Right. Like am I happy with things? Like I hadn't been in a serious relationship in a long time. I didn't really feel like I actually had close, real friends. My relationship with my family was kind of strained. Like they lived in a different city. I didn't see them very often. I wasn't talking to them a lot because I was working so much. I was drinking a lot, eating really unhealthy. And I just like was, for me, like I said, that was kind of my pivotal moment of like, this needs to stop. And then my years in the gym, I would say that that built and that changed over time. But with the pandemic and starting my online business, I would say I really took personal responsibility for like my self development and starting to kind of step into that next level of that journey. Because like you said, now it's a whole other can of worms, right? When you are responsible for a whole business and like are working with so many other women and feeling responsible for like, making sure that they feel supported in their journey and helping them through the same thing you went through, basically.
Yeah. So about 3 years, you made a decision in 17, and then 3 years of working on yourself and starting to do that work and that self-awareness improving,
Yeah.
like from 17 to 20. And then from
Yeah.
2020, then it's like, hey, it's on like Donkey Kong, messy
Yes.
action with my PDF with these workouts that I'm throwing together that I cringe at now, but it's honestly got to
Yes.
be something that you look back and I would have to assume that, if I was in your life and I knew you then, that I wouldn't be anything but proud, right? Do you feel that
Yeah.
for yourself for what you did?
Oh, 100%. And, I think there was a lot of relationships lost along the way, when you grow and you change like that, it's inevitable, right? But I would say that, the people that are staples in my life now, that were staples in my life then, the few of them that are there, they definitely have expressed, the vast change and growth in me. And I think a lot of people are scared of change naturally because, it can be scary, right? What if it doesn't work out? But in my
Mhm.
personal experience, it's always worth it.
Yeah. I mean, change is really the only constant too, whether you want to, bury your head in the sand and say it doesn't exist. It will happen with or without you, right?
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest character deficit that you had was when you jumped into the online space?
What do you mean by that?
Were you lacking perseverance? Were you lacking
Mm.
ethics? Were you lacking confidence? Were you lacking, like, where in your character and your personality do you think was the biggest deficit that going online and starting to to run through this unknown area improved you?
I think I was very naive in the beginning. That mixed with just not really having organizational skills, I would say at the time of knowing how to manage all that. But I would say the naive of it because in the gym, everything is very face value, right? Like you get what you see, everything is in person. It's very hard. Like you create personal relationships with people because it's always face to face, right? I going online, I think was a little bit of a wake up call for me of, dealing with people that don't necessarily have the best intentions or people that are out to deceive you or people that, say one thing and mean another. Like you don't really get much of that in the gym because like a lot of people won't like, I mean, some people will, but a lot of people won't like lie to your face. They're just like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like if they're not interested and they move on.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like just kind of building a tougher skin to all of that and just kind of being able to come to the realization that that's just the way that it is, right? And that, the world isn't really all sunshine and rainbows. But just being able to kind of, I guess, grow a little bit better of a bullshit meter and be able to, again, not let that affect me personally. I am a type of person who, prior, I would say I'm a lot better than now, but I used to take things personally a lot. Like I get very emotionally invested and I'm a very empathetic person. So I find that, in the beginning, it was very hard for me to separate, the person saying, they're not saying no to me. Like it's nothing against me. It's to do with them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or if like, you're going to invest in a business coach and like they say one thing and they give you another, like that's not because they hate me. It's just because they're not a very good person. Right. So just coming up to the realization that like, that's just the way that the world is, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes you invest in something and you got duped and you got
Mhm.
duns, and you're gonna have to figure it out now because you made a commitment and you're not just gonna backtrack on your commitment because someone else did. Right? I've
Yeah.
definitely been in that position. Where do you think the bullshit is the most? You said you have to have a great BS detector, and it's better now, and kind of almost assuming that it's going to happen. But where do you see the majority of the bullshit in industry?
Everywhere. No. Honestly,
That's a fair answer if you got justification. That's a fair answer.
yeah. I mean, I feel like every time I open my social media app, there's bullshit right there, right? Like I think a lot of the things, the problem is these days is that people regurgitate information without vetting it, number one. So with the internet age, right, it's come so far with where we are now, and you have access to anything and anything that you want in a millisecond, right, on the internet. But there's nobody that's actually like vetting that information. Like the amount of times I have clients come to me and tell me about something they read on TikTok and like ask me about it, and it be complete and utter garbage. I'm like, how is this like people believing this, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But it's because everybody like verification has now come from people's amount of followers or what they look like or the hype they've created around themselves opposed to actually being credible and educated and actually having sources for the information that you're sharing, right? So I would say like something like that, like you and I were going back and forth the other day laughing about, that little ad that I reposted on the Instagram story, because you have this girl that's super built and a muscular physique, right? Obviously years and years of training, potentially more enhancements than that, right? And here it is on an ad for wall Pilates, body weight wall Pilates. And I'm like, are you joking me? But I guarantee you that person is probably making bank for these people like who are naive, like I just said, I've been, everybody is at some
Yeah.
point not knowing any better, right? So stuff like that. I see it a lot in the industry as a whole. The fads, right? The skinny teas, the waist trainers, the quick fix supplements, all of these things that we see all the time. But I would say that, even just with social media becoming people's billboard now, right? Like, I was laughing with somebody the other day that like, you don't need a website anymore. You don't need anything professional, really. Like your social media profile is your business page, right? And there's nothing stopping you from writing whatever you want on there. I see people that, get called out for like fake testimonials, fake client results that have been stolen, sharing information that's just blatantly wrong, right? And nobody ever knows the wiser if somebody doesn't call them out.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the industry, right? Whose testimonials and whose before and afters do you actually have on your website? Do you actually have in your highlight reel, right?
Yeah.
Are they Joe Schmoes down the road, or are they Lane Nortons and Trevor Cashies and these famous people that you would not get those results in that time horizon? You're not educated enough and you don't have enough experience with clients to do that. There's
Exactly.
no way unless they're
You
juicing their
know,
face off.
and yeah, and people like Lee Norton, for example, right? Like works with so many people that like you think he has the time to be policing who's reusing his progress photos? Like
And
absolutely not, right?
he's not going to. Like
Yeah,
it would take
exactly.
more time for him to do that, but it's unfortunate for people that come in because I mean I don't know about for you, but for me, when people do say, hey, waist trainers are this, hey, this supplement is a magic bullet, hey, these Pilates or this megaformer exercise is going to get my ass the size of Kim Kardashian's, like it's blatant, it's blatant deception by
Mhm.
individuals in the industry. And we have probably a better BS detector here, right? Because we're in it day in, day out. And so
Yeah.
we're actually trying to sell counter to these claims that people are making that are just straight up false. But I can imagine how easy it is for somebody to not have an understanding of what's right and what's wrong, because you can make anything look more professional with your
Mhm.
little verified badge, with a blog post
100%.
that's linked to some random study that no one actually ever clicks on, right? You can backstop just about anything nowadays, steal everyone's before and afters, and you just don't really have an idea.
Yeah, I've even had somebody take one of the PDFs that I made in one of those challenges and then resell it as their own. So just cut out my name and that was it. But
Probably
speaking
didn't
of the
even change the
verified
design.
badge, no, they didn't. What do you think about the verified badge?
um in what direction are you trying to point that?
Well, they have like the subscription now, right? So
Yeah.
anybody can essentially call themselves verified.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, technically, you are verifying your identity, but what do you think that that means for the standard of credibility of people being verified?
Well, I think it really depends on what you're using it for. I mean, the verification process is fundamentally, if you look on Meta's website, the verification there, Twitter Blue, LinkedIn, YouTube, it's just to prevent against impersonations. That's straight up
Okay,
what it is. Like 100%, that's what it is. It's not that you're a verified source of information for XYZ. It's to prevent impersonations and theft of identities, and from individuals not to be able to sell on your name or purport information on your name. That's fundamentally what it was created for. Now, the verified badge at Meta, what is interesting, do you run ads?
I do not right now, no.
Okay. What's interesting about the Meta verified badge, and they're very smart for copying Twitter on this, and then taking it a step further. I don't see anything wrong with you paying for verification to say that this is you, XYZ. I think that where consumers go wrong, including us, right, when we see someone's verified badge is not in our industry, that automatically means that they know something that we don't. That automatically makes them an authority figure on whatever they're talking about. I think that that's a fallacy, right? That's
Yeah,
an appeal to an authority, right? That doesn't really make sense, but it's easy to get away with. Now, the thing with the verified badge, though, on Meta specifically, if you're an advertiser, what it allows you to do is it is the only way to get a one-to-one communication with anyone on their ads teams on the review side if something goes wrong on your ad set, if something goes wrong on your ad account. It is the only way, unless you're enterprise level, right? You're someone that's Fortune 1000 or Fortune 500, and you have people inside Meta.
spending the big bucks.
Yeah. But for us regular people, right, to get the same level of support, you have to be verified. They just rolled this out when they rolled this out in the US, that like the only way for you to get that, because if you haven't run ads, this wouldn't make as much sense. But when you run ads, to get in touch with their support team is like trying to pull hairs, right? If you've ever seen someone that has their account stolen, it is so difficult to get back. It is so difficult to get back. The verification makes that a whole lot harder because people can't just create new accounts with your name claiming to be you with your links. They won't let it happen. But the
Fair.
bigger thing on the advertising side is that if something goes wrong, if you're flagged inappropriately and you shouldn't have been, you now have access to a customer support line to talk to someone real and not depend on the algorithm. So as an advertiser who runs $50 to $100 a day every single day without fail, eyes closed or open, I like it for that. I think that there becomes a space where it can be dangerous because the consumer looks at that and says, if they're verified, if Meta gives their check, as big of a company, they just start making conclusions, like causal links between what this person knows and the subscription to someone saying, yep, Yahoo, you're good to go. I don't see anything wrong with it, but I think that we can't be silly enough to think that just because someone has a badge that they know anything, just because someone's famous that they know anything,
Yeah.
just because they have a certification that they know anything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the support thing is really cool. I had heard that from the standpoint of Instagram, but I didn't know that about ads. So that is awesome. I was kind of going like down that route of what you were saying, right? Like I think historically we've looked at people who were verified because it was something that was not as widespread as somebody of influence, right? Like, oh, if you're verified, you must be special, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it actually is probably a good thing by diversifying that, by allowing people to just use it to, like you said, for the purpose that it should be, to verify your identity, and actually taking away that like special status of, somebody thinking that somebody is superior because of the blue check mark.
I also think it puts us in an interesting situation, right? When you look at what people are willing to say on the internet, if you can't post, if you can't say specific things unless you're verified as a human, right? Where does hate speech go? I bet you the majority of it goes away because
Yeah,
people aren't willing
fair.
to put their name behind it, right?
Yeah,
So
no more
this
anonymous.
no, because you can't be anon, right? You can't be Sobra out here, just posting, or you can't be just someone throwing shade at people all day, every day, because I think that as we continue to go down here, yes, a wave of people were like, I want to be looked at as a bigger authority, so I'm going to get this verification. A lot of people did that. I've got no love lost for anyone there. It is what it is. I also think, though, that as we go down this path, if people continue to hop on, if, like we're saying, verification becomes normal, well, then it takes away the authority status from it. But then what it does is everyone that's anonymous, you now don't have a voice because people don't trust you because they
Yeah.
can't verify that you're a person. So I think in the long run, it'll take down the hate speech. I think in the long run, it'll force people to be more intentional about what they say. I think in the short run, though, I mean, one, it's a cash grab. Go Meta. Y'all definitely duped everyone. Wonderful. And then I think number two, that it's a situation in which you have the capability to um you have the capability to actually clean up the platform a little bit. I think there's definitely a lot of things going on, but I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's kind of like us rolling out a new feature in general, right? Everyone freaks
Yeah.
out because they can't hack the algorithm anymore, and everyone wants more stuff for free. What people forget, though, is that Instagram is free, Facebook is free, LinkedIn is free, Twitter is free. The fact that they want to charge for something shouldn't be odd.
Yeah, I'm honestly not gonna lie, I'm surprised it's been free for as long as it has.
Yep, it's because all the ad money that they make.
Yeah, fair.
So even small people to even get noticed at all, you got to be running $50 a day, $1,500 a month, and just push in there. So it kind of is what it is.
Have
But
you noticed a large increase with doing ads?
what do you mean?
Like from not doing ads before and then implementing ads into your business? Do you find that it makes a very large difference?
In overall clients sold?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I mean it's like rocket fuel if you know how to sell. Absolutely. If your
that's
offer
awesome.
is if your offer is correct. The problem is I have always been hybrid. Like I don't think that a lot of people know this, but I've always been hybrid. So in person and online.
Okay, cool.
Right. And so our whole TruCapacity team has in person and has online. Now I've only ever run ads for online, except for when I was general manager at a gym. And when I was there, I was running them for in person for me, and it worked swimmingly. Like geographically targeting 5 miles around where I am, beautiful, right? Because people can
Hmm.
come in and see the place. Online is a little bit harder in my mind, running on just like a regular, what a month to month, just regular coaching offer would be somewhere between 250 and $500 a month, right? It's a little bit more difficult because I'm not famous. And
Yeah,
there's
fair.
not a ton of differentiation on the ad side between me and I'm going to butcher his last name, but Tanner Chidester, right? Like if you look
Yes.
at the ads, if you look at the ads from Tanner, right, on fitness, and you look at like all of the other fitness influencers or coaches, the ads look so similar. People
Hmm.
don't have any way to sort through that, other than Tanner
Yeah,
has
like really
100,
connect.
140,000 followers.
Yeah. People
Massive
are like,
YouTube
oh,
channel.
credibility.
Boom. And that goes right back to the same thing that we're saying. Like people gaining credibility because of their following.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, can
Interesting.
can ads work? Yes, they can. You have to know how to sell though. If you don't know how to sell, all that ads will do is just have you spend a lot of money to stare at a lot of faces on Zoom that you don't close. And that's what it was when I started, for sure. 100%.
So you got better at sales.
Had to. I mean, you're forced to, because I took like 8 to 10 sales calls a day, every day for like 3 months straight,
Oh my
and just
gosh.
right through the ringer. 30 to 45 minutes a call, every call, just boom, 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 just head against the wall,
Oh
right?
my
And you learn
God.
really fast, but it
I can
sucks.
imagine.
It
Yeah.
definitely
Oh my
sucks.
gosh.
Yeah, it's something here. So, um, what would you say? I know that we're short on time here, so we will push to wrap here soon. But what would you say the biggest thing that people don't know prior to getting into a coaching scenario where they're coaching with you, they're coaching their client of another person that's online? Like, what are people missing on the front end before talking to you that you really just wish that they knew?
I would say the biggest challenge I meet with people, that is something that I usually have to work through with them, is they're missing the piece of understanding like how their body actually works. I think a lot of people come from either another coach, another program, doing it on their own, where the idea is that eating less is always better, doing more is always better when it comes to like workouts and nutrition or exercise and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So I wish that people just kind of took a more updated approach on that. Like, you don't have to essentially eat salads all day and starve yourself all time to be able to see weight loss, right? And to see body composition changes. And that sometimes eating more is actually going to provide you better results.
Eating more. Man, that is such a thing
Yes.
that women need to hear in their ears 24/7,
Yeah.
365. Eating your 800 calories ain't going to get you the booty you want, or the abs
It
you
is
want,
not.
or the strength you
No.
want.
Yeah. I often have people ask me, like, how much do you weigh? And I tell them, and they're like floored. And then I say, how much do you eat? And I tell them, and then they're even more floored. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what can I tell you?
I mean, I definitely am. I definitely am curious. Would you be open to sharing those kind of things?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I am around 5'4" in terms of
Mhm.
my height. And I weigh around 150 pounds.
Let's
So
go. Let's
yes.
go.
So that is kind of my, like, I would say my stabilized weight. If I
Mhm.
go and do an intentional cut, sometimes that'll cut down a little bit to around 145. If I'm like very intentionally building, sometimes that'll go up to like 153, 154. But I would say like my very comfortable average weight for the last, I don't know, 4 years has been around
Mhm.
150.
150. And is that with abs, with no abs?
I mean, I'm a little bit genetically blessed that even when I am heavier, I do
Mhm.
still have little baby abs there. I just really am naturally bottom heavy. Like I carry a lot of my weight in my
Mhm.
my lower body, my legs. Like my thighs are massive, but for me, that's with abs. But I would say that I noticed the fluffiness kind of coming in when I'm on the
Mhm.
heavier side, in my lower body and a little bit my back mostly.
Yeah, and on the heavier side for you, if you stabilize at 150, when you lean out, you're like 145 ish. What would you say? What would you consider heavier for you? 5'4", right?
Yeah.
Okay. What would be heavier for you?
The heaviest I've ever been in my intentional fitness journey has been 158. And that was in like I think I was eating like 3,800 calories a day.
Lord, every
So
single day?
that was, yeah,
With what
I
kind of
was
protein
in,
number? Holy.
I think I was eating 1.2 per pound of body weight at the time. It wasn't
Per
very, like, it
pound,
was,
not per kg.
yeah, per pound.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was, I think, about I think we were doing a 5-month bulk at the time. So I mean, that wasn't that for the whole time, but it
Hmm.
got up to that on the end. And then I was like, no, I can't do this anymore.
That's a lot of food.
Yes, I definitely do not eat near that much now. But I would say on like an average day to day, like if I was intuitively eating and not like, trying to hit a specific goal, I probably
Mhm.
hit between 2,500 calories like
That's a
regularly.
smooth amount of calories though. And your energy
Yeah.
level is okay?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good.
Hormone solid?
I mean, it's been a little bit of a journey coming off of
Yeah.
birth control about a year ago.
It's a
So that
big
was not,
jump.
Not a fun ride, but it has definitely leveled out. It's the best that it's been right now since then. So it's,
Beautiful,
working on
beautiful.
it, working on
I
it.
know a lot of people don't know what their hormones look like, and a lot of people also think that their hormones are all straight, solid, good to go. And I think we need some more education around that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think, it's just very sad to me that it's not something that women are educated on a younger age.
Mhm.
Like I had to think for a second. I'm like, how old am I? I'm 32. So for me, being able to, or like having to wait until I'm 30 to understand my body and how my hormone system works is like actually ludicrous to me. Like I was on birth control from being 15 years old. At the time I was like, yay, get rid of my cramps and my pimples. And, I
Mhm.
came off of it when I was about to be 31, in the end, a couple months of being 30. And I was like, this is insanity. Like I was on this, pharmaceutical for 15 years that I had absolutely no idea what it was actually doing and didn't even understand my natural hormonal cycle. Right. So, I think that should be educated to like teenagers.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think that a lot of people just do it because they're told, and maybe it's purity culture. Maybe it's, hey, well, you don't want all the cramps and bigger flow and all of this stuff that is societally not okay, right? Quote
Yeah.
unquote okay. And so like just get on this thing. Like all that you need to know is that this will stop you from having kids, right? This will also stop you from getting the acne that you get made fun of for. This will also stop you from having as bad, if at all, periods, right? So like just take it. And most people, like you're saying, maybe get even past to where you were, maybe get even past 30 years old, and they're
Mm-hmm.
still on it.
Yep. I think the problem too is that, it's one thing to eat. It's the first problem is not being made aware of the repercussions when you start taking it, right? Like not being actually educated on the medication or the
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it itself. And then the second part of it is not being educated on how to properly come off of it, how to support your body in making the decision to no longer take it, right? Like, I had spoken to a gynecologist when I was about to come off of it, and she had said to me essentially, first of all, well, if you don't want to have a baby right now, why aren't you continuing to take it? And I was like, because I feel like garbage. And then the second portion was, oh, well, just like it'll be fine. Like within 30 days, you'll feel normal. And I was like, little did I know I had this like, almost a year journey of trying to understand what was happening with my body, right? And doing tests and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that, not to go back to I know we talked a little bit about like the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
but during the pandemic was when I kind of really opened my eyes to the westernized medical side of things. And that's one thing that's so hard, I find, is that in Canada, I'm not sure about in the US, because obviously you guys have more privatized healthcare, but in Canada, it is impossible to get what you want from a doctor. Like if you want a standard hormone panel done, it's literally like 6 months of arguing with them or waiting to see a specialist for months and months and months. And
Mhm.
it's like, my experience being in Mexico, like I've been in complete control of what I needed to get done. Yes, you have to pay for it, but I can get the answers that I need in a timely manner, opposed to
Mhm.
feeling like I'm constantly banging my head against the wall trying to be heard.
And then looking at people with white coats on and in other modalities and in the westernized health side where they're like, you don't need that. Why do you need that? Questioning
Yeah.
every single question that you have. And you're like, hold on, but you're here for education just as you are for prescription and just as you are for treating and just as you are to do everything else. Like you should be able to tell me like, here are the upsides, here are the downsides, here's what could happen, here's what probably will happen, here's what happens to most people. Because for me, look, at the end of the day, I mean, first of all, it's not my job to control any woman's body, but you should have the right to choose. Do you want to be on birth control? Do you not? Right? Do you want to get
100%.
a hormone panel or not? Do you want to be on HRT or not? Do you want to smoke pot or not? Do you want to like? It's
Yeah.
not just about medicine, right? You should have that choice. And so with that, I think it's fascinating that y'all have a medicine covered in Canada. Is that how that goes?
So like standardized healthcare, so like doctor's appointments,
General
like
practitioner,
x-rays,
like that kind of stuff.
yeah, all of that kind of stuff, specialists, all of that is covered. But like to actually go to the pharmacy and pick up a medication isn't covered unless you have external benefits through work or something else.
Oh wow, that's odd. Yeah, we're privatized. I mean, there are government subsidies, right? But for almost everyone, unless you work for yourself, is on some sort of healthcare and it's covered and they've got copays and whatever, and you don't have to wait that long. And you can actually just come out of pocket and pay for it outright, and you can slide in like same week, a couple weeks later kind of thing.
Yeah. And
That's
see, I would
definitely,
rather have that because yes, obviously there's the financial burden. And for those that are very financially strained, that can be stressful. But what's more important, right? Like being able to seek immediate care when you need it, or to have to wait 6 months to see somebody because it's free. Meanwhile, it's not even free because I pay for it in my taxes, right? So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's always the argument, you know, with universal healthcare, and like, is it an inalienable right? Is it something that government should provide? Is it something that we already pay for that should just be allocated there?
yeah.
And it's interesting. A lot of people have different opinions there, but I think that it's obviously not working for everybody, right? I know that
Yeah.
HRT and TRT and peptides in Canada are very difficult to get, very, very difficult
Yes,
to
I
get.
have
I
heard
know
that as well.
Derek from More Plates, More Dates talks about that all the time. Like, for lack of a better term, fuckery that is the medical system and the regulations on being able to do this, that, and the other.
Oh
It's
yeah.
super frustrating, I would have to assume. And I want to respect your time, so I'm going to let you go here in just a second. We will have to do it again because we just tiptoed into some surface level stuff on coaching and whatnot. And so I would love to have you back to dive deeper on everything coaching and your biz there. But if anyone wants to learn more about you, wants to get coaching from you, wants to be in a position to connect with you, where can they find you? What are you working on? What can they expect to come out soon?
Yeah, for sure. So Instagram is probably like the main place to connect with me. Obviously James knows my Instagram handle. I'm sure he'll link it, but my
Yeah, I'll
Instagram
put it
name
in.
is Sam Jones _ fit. My coaching page, I also have a link there as well. So if you want to see more information about kind of my clients and all of that kind of stuff. Right now, just really focusing on, making my program offers the best that they are, but I actually have an exciting podcast coming out soon. So that will be fun.
Oh,
Yeah, so we'll have to
you're
do a
starting a podcast?
collaboration there. Yes, I am.
Let's go.
So maybe we can do a little swap.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the plan for that is I think for that to launch in June. So we're about a month and a half out from that.
Okay.
End of May, beginning of June. So, I just really want a platform to be able to, like you said, dive deeper into some of these
Mhm.
topics, right? You can only get so deep at surface level on Instagram, and people's attention span there is like none.
Mhm.
So, to be able to get more into the nitty gritty of things and being able to, have guests and collaborate is exciting. So
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and link. We'll link your regular. Do you have a Linktree website, anything like that
yes,
too?
I do. Yeah,
Okay,
it's on my
I'll
Instagram.
I'll link everything in the show notes. And I really appreciate you making the time, and I look forward
I
to.
appreciate you having me and
Yeah,
all of our fun chit chat.
absolutely. I look forward to doing it again. I'm going to cut the recording there and hold on for 2 seconds.